When I moved to LA and was living there, I was a very superficial, shallow, look and image-based, money-based version of myself. When I became a mom, something started to change because I realized I am so much happier when I'm just nurturing and looking after this being.
There's a certain aesthetic that I really like, but there's a certain level of consciousness that I require. And some people tell me I'm looking for this unicorn, but you are looking for a very handsome man who's also very spiritual, conscious, and open-minded.
Yeah.
Is that too much to ask for?
I don't think so. And also has some good finances. He's got he doesn't need to be loaded.
Welcome to the Path to Purpose podcast, where I share incredible conversations with amazing humans who went through a pivotal shift in their lives that have put them on their path of purpose, profit, and impact. My name's Zarak Fatah. I'm a serial entrepreneur and life coach. I went through my own transformational journey where I'm now committed to living a life of inspiration, education, and empowerment. My intention is to share these conversations so they inspire you to also walk your path to purpose. Welcome back to the Path podcast. Today we are sitting down with a dear friend of mine that I've known well over 20 years, Sitara Hewitt. She is a mindfulness meditation coach to athletes. She is an amazing mom. She is a person who has just got so much talent. She was one of the lead actors on a little mosque on the Prairie for 6 years. She left the glamorous life of Los Angeles for a more simple, rich life in nature. Of being spiritual, being conscious, and also being abundant and being able to celebrate the luxuries of life while staying grounded and centered. We're also going to dive into what do conscious men and women want in relationships these days, because being a conscious man, wanting to find my partner, her being a conscious woman, it hasn't been easy. So we're going to dive into that today. So thank you for joining us in today's episode. It is my pleasure to introduce the fabulous Sitara Hewitt.
Thanks for that Thanks for that awesome introduction, Zarak. It's always so good to hang out with you. One of my favorite people.
Thank you. I appreciate that and meant every word of it. You and I have a long, what's the word I won't say eclectic, but we've known each other in many different capacities over, I'm going to say it's probably been 2 decades. And that makes us sound really old because you're like 32, right? So I met you when you were 12.
Exactly. We were little kids. I think we've probably been friends about 26 years.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. And we've known each other. It's been an evolution, for sure.
Yeah, as we've both evolved, both personally, but then also professionally with our different paths and what we've done. Just to give some context to it, Sitara and I, we met in the go-go dancing scene. I've shared on podcasts before that I started my career in nightlife as a go-go dancer back in the day.
He was up there. He was dancing in the stripy shorts. I remember.
You're right.
The tight
you
ones.
know what? We're actually going to drop a photo of the stripy shorts in because I have them. I have it, and I'd rather put it out there before someone else finds it and blasts me on social. So I'm going to share that photo of me in my short, tidy, whitey, black and white shorts. Yeah, I must have been like. Yeah, that was probably my early 20s. So, wow. Because if that was early 20s and I'm 49 now.
I was a teenager, literally, when we met.
Okay.
I was underage working in nightclubs.
We're coming up on 3 decades.
Yeah.
Damn.
Pretty great.
Wow.
Well, that's a good friendship.
Yes.
Yes,
absolutely.
I cherish it.
Wow. So, we met back in the clubbing days, and then along the way, when I had Blowfish, you worked with us there at Blowfish, and then you eventually left Toronto. I mean, well, you were deep into the world of acting in Toronto, being one of the feature actors on Little Mosque on the Prairie. You then end up leaving to go to Los Angeles, and all the while, deepening your practice in spirituality and meditation. So. I actually don't think I know how you got on the path. Like, I know you've always been like a conscious spiritual person, but I don't know, like, what was the catalyst or what happened that put you on your path of spirituality?
That's a great question. So I was an actor. I'd always been a performer, a dancer, an actor. And I was always kind of chasing that fame, chasing that money. And I got a lead on a series, which is such a blessing. And it's also, 15 to 17 hours a day on set. I then fell in love. I got pregnant and had a baby. Thought it would be fine. I'll be shooting my TV show. I'll have the baby on set with me. It'll be easy. It was not. I went right back to work. I think the baby was only 6-7 months old. My son, who's now 14. And I was completely exhausted. I was shooting 17 hours a day, trying to nurse him all night, breastfeed him, be present with him. I've always been really drawn to be super present with my son. And I was getting 3 hours of sleep a night. Things were just a mess. My body, my mind were kind of degrading. And I turned to meditation. I realized if I can't sleep at night, at least I can learn to meditate and somehow calm and heal my body from all these stress hormones coming from work and trying to be a good mom. And it started then. I just, instead of sleeping, I would listen to guided meditations and it would calm my nervous system and I would finally fall asleep. I was determined to not use drugs or prescriptions for my anxiety, which was growing. And meditation really was the way out of that chronic anxiety for me. And then I just thought, I really want to share this with people. This has been so transformative for me. I finally realized I was the one creating my existence, my experience, co-creating with God. I wasn't just a victim of all this stress, but that I could intentionally decide what my life was going to be like day to day.
Yeah, beautiful. And I feel that's how many of us step into service by way of discovering something that's really helpful or transformative for us and then wanting to share that gift with others.
Yeah.
And obviously you being a meditation mindfulness coach, I'm curious to know, because many people are also wanting to explore meditation now with anxiety and depression and mental health issues on the rise. So for somebody who's listening or watching to this podcast, what suggestion or tips would you have for them to begin their own meditation practice? Because I have a lot of people, clients who I work with, they're like, yeah, I tried meditating for a week, I just couldn't get it. Screw it, I'm done. This meditation's not for me.
Yeah, that happens a lot. And to that, I would say meditation is not what you think it is. Meditation is not just going from having this active mind to sitting there and making it empty and just breathing. That's virtually impossible for a lot of people. Start with going for a walk without your phone and breathing and looking around you, using your senses, looking at the beauty in the trees and the sky and the flowers, feeling the wind on your skin. Just get present in a way that's enjoyable. A lot of people feel really good if they stand at the edge of an ocean, right? Or on the edge of a lake. That's mindfulness. So find those places that you feel really good and make a point of going to them more often. And then once you've kind of felt what it is to be present, try in a quieter setting, just breathing, just following your breath in and out. And don't feel like you have to do it for 10 minutes. Do it for 30 seconds. Do it for a minute. You know what I mean? Follow 10 breaths. And every time your mind wanders off, just bring it back. But I think we're just so hard on ourselves that that's what stops people from learning how to meditate is they're like, oh, I'm bad at it. I can't do it. I can't quiet my mind. Go easy on yourself. Our life hasn't trained us to be present in the moment, but we can train ourselves.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. And one of the things I heard someone say that made so much sense is we can't stop our heart from beating, like we can't stop our lungs from breathing. We can't stop our mind from thinking. So the thoughts are going to come, but whether or not you let the thoughts sweep you away, that is mindfulness. That is pausing and realizing I am not my thoughts, and these thoughts can just pass on by. And I think where a lot of people get discouraged with meditation is they hear about the profound impact that meditation can have on them.
Yeah.
And they'll try it for a week and they'll be like, I'm just not getting it. It's just not for me. And, if you were to go to the gym for a week, by the end of the week, you'd look in the mirror, you're like, I'm still fat or I'm still skinny or whatever it may be. You're not going to notice a shift in your body until at least 3 weeks or 3 months, depending on how hard you're going at. So like meditation, you have to be consistent. And like you said, whether it's a minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you have to be consistent, be intentional, dedicate the time to it, and just practice. And it is a practice. There's no getting it right or perfect. And, there are different types of meditations based on what suits your lifestyle. Like for some people, as you said, it's walking meditation.
Totally.
For some people, dance is meditation, or painting can be meditation, expressing yourself creatively. There is transcendental meditation, guided meditation, open eye meditation. I mean, there's so many different types, just like yoga or like breath work. You just got to find the style that resonates for you and then just do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well said. And it really is cumulative. The longer
Yes.
you do it, just little by little is what makes the difference.
Yeah, what I love is when I see my clients pop off, like at first they're kind of resistant to it, but then they start doing it for 3 minutes, then 5 minutes, and then they'll say, I cannot start my day without my 20-minute meditation.
Wow.
And yeah, I feel so fulfilled when I hear them say that, because I know, like, okay, they have just opened up Pandora's box. And, there's this whole world of self-discovery that they're about to embark on,
Yes.
a journey. Yeah. So you're in Toronto, you're the lead on the show, you're a mom, and I'm curious to know, like, what was it like, what took you to LA, and how did you, because, obviously Toronto and LA have similarities, but LA safe to say it's probably one of the most superficial, hyper stimulating, materialistic places in the world. And in many ways, knowing who you are, I'd be like, oh, okay, like how does that fit, right? So can you share a bit about that experience and how you're able to manage that transition?
That's a great question. And I will say that when I moved to LA and was living there, I was a very superficial, shallow, look and image-based, money-based version of myself. I was motivated by that almost entirely. And I try not to say there's anything wrong with that, because for my age, in my 20s and early 30s, I was motivated. That's what got me out of bed every day, was to be the best looking and the fittest and the most successful. And does that fill me and fulfill me now? Like, not at all. But at the time it really did. And it got me learning. It got me hungry. When I became a mom, something started to change, because I realized I am so much happier when I'm just nurturing and looking after this being. I'm so much happier when I'm laughing with this little kid and making his day the best day ever. And so something new grew inside of me that, like, wow, there's so much more to life. And I honestly think that's when my heart really opened. And when I lived in LA also, I didn't have a lot of strong faith, to be honest. I was kind of just whipping around in the wind, trying new age stuff, trying sort of everything out, and I was a little bit lost. And when I truly found a connection to God and a conversation, an ongoing conversation with God, that's when I became really a more enjoyable version of myself. That's when my life became better, because I really was kind of lost, bouncing around in everything you named, all the superficiality.
Yeah, like they say, Los Angeles, city of lost angels, right?
Yes.
And was there a catalyst or a specific moment that had you reconnect with your faith?
Yeah, I would say I was always raised, Christian by my mom. We always went to church and everything. My mom's Pakistani Christian, which is pretty rare. And then I kind of got lost. It was sort of during the pandemic, which was an awakening for so many people.
Absolutely.
That I realized I didn't want to live in Los Angeles. It was coming from other things, like just for me, I didn't want my child wearing a mask and having to follow all these rules. I wanted him to be able to be a kid and play and interact and not sit at home on a Zoom screen. So there was all these external motivators. And then when I left LA, I realized just how empty my life had been. And when I came to Texas, interestingly enough, Texas is a very faith-based place. The families go to church with each other. And, you can hear a lot of negative stuff about the very Christian parts of the U.S. My experience has been so positive in that it creates communities of people that care about each other, that take care of their neighbors, that take care of each other's kids, that are welcoming to new people, loving. And that was kind of, for me, a catalyst also, because I realized, wow, a simpler life and a life that God is really the main feature in is a lot more fulfilling. So it was kind of a combination of a lot of things.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it definitely seems like Christianity is on the rise.
It's having its moment.
It is having its moment, and I feel that in today's day and age, with all the craziness that's happening in the world, we need faith. And
Yeah.
whichever God, whichever religion, whatever it is that you subscribe to or that you believe in, I think more so now than ever, we need to have faith in a higher power because there is some dark energy.
Yes.
In many ways, I won't say taking over, but definitely it's more present now than ever before.
Yeah, and with that, we need to stop being judgmental of one another about what we believe in,
Yes.
right? That's something that people of many religions, there's this faction of people in every religion that judges the others. Either you're not religious enough, there's part of my family is Muslim, and then there's people in Islam who are like, well, you're not Islamic enough. And the same thing happens in Christianity. Christians that bash other Christians, you're not Christian enough. And it's like, we all have to stop judging each other based on what we believe in and our faith. Because truly, the highest tenets of all religions are love, accept, oneness, non-judgment, non-criticism, So I think that's something that is being learned a little more. It's like, let others believe what they believe. Let them do their life the way they want to do it. Support them and get rid of the kind of division. I think that'll help.
Yeah. And I myself didn't grow up religious. My father's supposed to be Muslim. My mom's supposed to be Christian. But my parents really let my brother and I just grow up as Canadians. And I have some friends who practice their own, specific faith. And when I share my beliefs and, my perception of God and what it means to be a good person and just my own principles and values, they've shared that a lot of what I believe is prevalent in Christianity, in Buddhism, in Islam. And it's just interesting that so many of the same fundamental principles are shared, yet there's still so much division.
Right.
And it just, that is what turned my father off of Islam and religion because, he and his family had to leave Pakistan when he was age 2. Actually, India, sorry. My father had to leave India at age 2 because they were killing Muslims just for the fact that they were of a different religion. So he just grew up with a deep resentment towards religion, and that's why he didn't put it on us. And he just wanted it to be that ultimately one day when I grow up, if I want to learn more about Islam or Hinduism or Buddhism or whichever, Kabbalah, I can choose to practice, right? And, not about 2 years ago, it wasn't really a date, but it was a woman I'd been on a few dates with who, we would have deep, profound conversations about God and life and karma and all these, esoteric topics, I guess. And she said, you and my pastor say the exact same things, but you use the word universe and he says the word God. And she's like, would you want to come to church with me? And I'm thinking, well, that would be an interesting date. I don't think it's going to be a date. I'm just going to go to church with her. And sure enough, the pastor, first off, this church, it's in Miami. It's called VOUS, V-O-U-S. They have about 4 locations. It was like part concert, part stand-up comedy, part Tony Robbins, like kind of personal development talk. It was all these elements in about an hour and a half. And sure enough, what he was speaking about is totally aligned with what I coach my clients on. And I thought it was just so interesting that this is what I guess the new form of Christianity is becoming. And again, I'm very new to it, so I don't have any context as to what it might have been like before or after, but I just saw probably 800 or 900 people in the room, inspired, connected, open-hearted, and just singing in joy. And I thought, this is beautiful. And I left there feeling very charged up. I'm like, okay, I get why people go to church now. This makes sense. And I could also see how my father's negative perspective towards religion of all kinds also kind of created a limiting belief or just a negative perception of what religion is. And of course, all religions have dogma and all have, their pros and cons to them. However, I do believe that whether you go to a mosque or a synagogue or a church right now, having faith in God or whichever higher being you worship is necessary, because it just reminds us that we all come from source, and ultimately we are all connected. And hopefully in that knowing and self-awareness, we will be less judgmental towards one another.
Yes, and actually what you're saying there, what you summed it up with, I think is the core, because I don't think we have a religion problem or a belief problem or a spirituality problem on earth. I think we have like an earth problem, a humanity problem of this lower energy that you will find in every religion, in every country, in every class, rich, poor, of this heavy energy of division and fear and criticism and judgment and shaming others. And I think that if we want to really get Earth to a better place, if we want humanity to heal, we're not going to get there from here. There has to be a complete ascension and raising of consciousness. And that will in turn, I'm not going to say it's going to dissolve religion, but it's going to dissolve the barriers between all of us. And you can see it so prevalent. I mean, just look at a comment section on social media and you just think like, wow, these people are so angry and they're just going at each other for believing something different or thinking something different or posting something different than they would. There's just so much hatred and anger, and you just realize we're just not going to get there from here. Something has to change very deeply in the core of humanity so that more people believe exactly what you do, what you're saying with this oneness, this joy, this empathy, this good feeling. That's going to have to become pervasive in all of humanity, or at least most of it.
And I do believe that one of the major upsides to what we're going through right now is it's in these moments of tragedy and despair where people start to realize, like, what are we really fighting about? What is most important right now? And it just comes back to human connection, because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to get through this thing called life, right?
So true.
Yeah. Switching gears for a moment, because I just want to jump back to your shift from Los Angeles to Texas, because in many ways it's kind of parallel to me leaving Toronto for Costa Rica, whereas I chose to leave an old career, one that I was quite established in, for a more simple, more authentic or genuine life, I would say.
Yeah.
And you did very much the same, leaving Los Angeles and coming to Texas. So I would just love to hear what that was like for you, because I know a lot of people often ask me, or they say, oh, you had so much courage to walk away, from Toronto in your career and move to Costa Rica. I'm sure you probably hear that as well. So what was that experience like for you, and what have been some of, I guess, the biggest takeaways from leaving that kind of old identity and lifestyle behind and evolving into this new version of you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's really cool that we had that parallel. We kind of made that shift at the same time.
That's true,
without planning it. And I can see why people would say you have a lot of courage in doing that, because you left a lot of certainty and a lot of kind of a framework you had built. Ultimately, you left the matrix, right? You were like, I'm done with living in the matrix and I want to be more of a sovereign, free soul. And that was really what I was seeking. I just really wanted to exit that kind of paradigm of the matrix where we're always stuck in this rat race. We never really win. Everyone is just stressed. Like the common through line when you talk to anyone, how are you? I'm so stressed. And that's not normal to me, but it had become normalized. And I think a reason I left too was something that's so simple that we don't give it a lot of credit. I just wanted to be in nature. Like I just really wanted to be with trees and birds and butterflies and wild nature and rivers every day. even to the point where I was like looking for a house to buy, and I would go to some neighborhoods and they'd have these kind of manicured lawns next to the sidewalk. And I would see it and I was like, I don't want that. And then I would come out in the country and like the ground is like pebbles and wild grass and wildflowers, and it looks scraggly to some people. And I was like, I need ground that looks like that. Like, I don't want this overdeveloped manicured thing. I want to feel the real energies of the land. And man, once you start living in nature, you realize, wow, it's possible to feel this good every day.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
It totally resonates with what people would ask me, like, why Costa Rica? Like, of all places, you could go to Miami, you can go to Europe, South America. Like, why Costa Rica specifically? And my answer was just like, I feel like my best self there. I know it sounds kind of cliche, but when you're in the vibration of nature, whether it be the ocean or the river, or the jungle, the forest, just hearing the sound of the animals when you wake up, it's just so soothing for our nervous system. And energetically, I think that's when we're most in harmony with the natural elements, because again, we're not different than nature. We are nature in our own human form. And with the work that we both do, being able to ground ourselves and rebalance and be in that frequency of nature is super important, because we're constantly taking on the energy of clients and people that we work with who are stressed and anxious and afraid. And nature for me has been like my part of my own like self-care and healing practice. And for me, when I chose to leave, it was before the pandemic and things hadn't gotten crazy yet. And for me, it was just like, I knew that in order for me to become that next version of myself, I had to leave the environment that kind of triggered the old habits and patterns and really kind of wipe the slate clean and start somewhere new.
So what were the habits and patterns that you were trying to leave?
Yeah, so, with having a certain friend group and going to certain places that feel comfortable, just being in that environment that has a certain energy to it, right? Like my job at the time, whether being at the restaurant or the clubs or going out to see friends, going to certain events, there was nothing wrong with any of that. However, it wasn't aligned with the future version of me that I wanted to become, right? And, when you move either to a small town in Texas or a small jungle town in Costa Rica, a lot of those distractions, a lot of those people, a lot of those things that you used to do or places you used to go just aren't an option anymore. Yeah. So it's really taking an intentional step out of that environment and choosing to let go of what no longer serves you. Now, for anybody listening or watching that says, oh, that's great that you moved to Texas or moved to Costa Rica and just, cut all that out. But how do you do that if you're still living in the city and you've got family and career and you can't, just walk away? And this is when it's very important to get clear on your values, get clear on the future vision you want to create for your life, and then setting boundaries and choosing yourself, choosing the life that you dream of, and making sure that all of your choices are aligned with that version of you that you want to become, because otherwise it's just very easy to get caught up and then you just kind of get sucked in and you fall back.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be as simple as, okay, it's Saturday, so what do we choose to do as a family? Now, do we choose to just sit on the couch or go to a movie? Or do we find like a national park nearby and pack a picnic and get the whole family outdoors in nature for the day? Like, it's so possible, as you said, without just picking up and like moving to the jungle. It's so possible to incorporate that stuff. Or is it, on your lunch hour, instead of going and sitting in the food court with the same old people and talking about the same old drama, go for a long power walk for that hour-long lunch and just look around and get the oxygen in your body, Yeah. So many little shifts people can make.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. You have to be resourceful and creative. And look for what's available. I mean, most cities have lots of parks. You know, Toronto, we got the lake. You know, so there are the options, but you got to disrupt the patterns and be intentional with your choices, right? And before we got the cameras rolling, you and I were talking a little bit about career and business and what's going on in our worlds. And you shared something that I think is quite interesting that I'd love to dive deeper into. How, when you let go of that glamorous status, you know, filled LA life, and you chose a more simple life, a lot of the goals or things that you had aspired to achieve came easier to you when you moved here to Texas. So can you share a little bit about how you were able to manifest all of that from this new frequency?
Yeah, I think it was interesting because I was always kind of chasing money and fame, to be honest, and I was chasing approval from my peers. And that's really why I was an actor. There's a lot of people that will give you like a great answer, like, I just wanted to be creative and entertain people and stuff. I just wanted approval, money, you know, and fame. And that's really honestly why I was doing it. And when I let go of that and finally decided, okay, how can I actually help other people? And how can I be a more authentic version of myself? Not so shallow, not superficial, not competitive with others, but how can I genuinely walk around my life leaving people better than I found them, and investing really 100% of my energy into making sure my son has a really great life and making sure I'm present, fully present for him. And those were the kind of decisions I made just because I wanted to be happier. The crazy thing was, different parts of my career that were kind of like backups to my acting just took off. And I sort of had a windfall of money come in from various different things all at once during the pandemic. Part of that was because everything kind of went online, and I had some good online businesses set up in terms of my meditation coaching, as well as some, I help small brands on social media get their wellness brands out there. So those sort of backup plans all of a sudden like exploded. And you know, you can try to pinpoint, like, I'm going to work the market, I'm going to work the industries, I'm going to work, but that's all external. I suggest you work this, getting this in alignment, like really peaceful, really happy, doing things that make you happy and doing good things for other people. And then your abundance will start to come in. A big thing I did also was I focused a lot on reprogramming my poverty beliefs. I had a lot of beliefs about scarcity, whether, you know, that came from previous generations that had lived through the war, you know, my parents living through war times. I just had a lot of beliefs that I didn't deserve to have nice things. I didn't deserve to have freedom, and I didn't deserve to have money. And I just decided, okay, I'm done with these old belief systems. Like, how can we reprogram these? I read every book. I listened to every podcast. I would listen to YouTube videos about reprogramming the mind on repeat. And I really think that's what it takes. Like, a lot of my clients will say, well, how do I get a more positive mindset? How do I get an abundance mindset? You have to work on it. And that means every time you're in the car, you're not listening to crappy music. You're putting on a podcast that's helping you reprogram your thoughts. When you're going to bed at night, you're not scrolling mindlessly on your phone, looking at stupid videos and comparing yourself to others. You're actually listening to content that will uplift your mind. You're journaling. You're spending time meditating and envisioning the future and the life you want. Like, it's got to be a round the clock scenario if you want to reprogram your mind. And that is 100% what I did.
Yeah, and that is such a powerful process that I don't want to say it's simple, but it requires you really getting connected to who you are at a true core level. Like, what are your values? What are your principles? And you touched on this earlier, the alignment piece. Like, your business took off when you started putting more energy into what was actually most aligned with you, you know? And it's quite possible that, you know, your acting career maybe didn't reach the level that you had aspired because it actually wasn't what was most aligned for you. And when you started to honor these side hustles that you had, it actually felt good for you because you were providing a service to others that was meaningful, that's when the abundance came. And, you know, there's many similarities between what you shared with being in alignment and being of service to really like tapping into that abundance frequency, or that ability to attract the money to you, as well as the scarcity mindset, because that is something that I've had to deal with as well, growing up with parents who, you know, coming from Pakistan, coming from, you know, a country where, you know, you're kind of born poor, you're going to die poor, you know, hearing money's the root of all evil, money makes good people bad, money isn't easy to come by, you know, always save, you know, like be careful with your money. That deep programming that is imprinted upon us will have such a profound impact, because even when I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I mean, I've made millions of dollars in my life.
You used to pick me up in your Porsche.
Yeah.
No, in your Gucci suit.
I've always liked nice things. However, there was a part of me that would also try to spend the money as fast as I made it, because there was a part of my programming that had me believe that I don't deserve the money. The money isn't, I'm not worthy of being wealthy. Wealthy and me just aren't, you know, compatible.
Wow.
And I would find myself sabotaging myself financially. And it was only when something shifted where I realized I'm helping people make changes in their life that are allowing them to make hundreds of thousands of dollars and even millions. And beyond the financial aspect, they're also being better husbands, better fathers, better moms, better wives. They're just showing up in the world a better version of themselves. If somebody wants to pay me 5, 10, 25K, why not? You know, like, I'm paid well for the service I provide and the value I'm putting out there in the world. And until you really believe that you are worthy of being compensated well, because the value you're putting out in the world is actually 10 times what you're getting paid, it's hard to be open to receiving the financial abundance, because those blockages of unworthiness and that you're not deserving of wealth will override your desire to want to have money. Because it's another thing it's one thing to want money. It's another thing to believe that you actually deserve it, and it is your God-given right to be financially abundant.
So well said. It's so true. And I think a lot of people get stuck on the I want money and I don't have money. And then that just becomes a cycle. Whereas what you're saying, bringing in the being of service, deserving, enjoying, helping others. And I always love to remember, like, the more I have, the more I can give.
Exactly.
The more people I can employ, the more I can support the economy. You know, those things feel good. And so reminding people, like, I'm a channel for wealth.
Yes.
I'm not just trying to hoard it. I want to channel it to good people and good things and keep receiving more. But it was so interesting when you said, like, I had this part of me that would sabotage and didn't think I deserved wealth. It was interesting hearing that, because you'd picture hearing that from someone who's maybe living in their parents' basement or struggling. But I saw you during that era, and you owned 5 or 6 of the biggest restaurants in downtown Toronto and nightclubs. You had the nicest clothes, the nicest cars. You were treating everyone to these big fancy dinners. You would not have been someone I'd thought has these programs. So it's really cool that you share that, and that you were able to undo that.
And the ironic part is, a lot of what I spent money on was coming from a place of, yes, generosity, but at the same time, irresponsibility, or from a place of, I'm just going to keep spending it because I don't know when it's going to go. You know, like, the banks took my parents' home, our family home, when I was 21. When my parents split up a few months after, my dad couldn't keep up with the mortgage, banks took our house, and money for me has always been one of those things that kind of comes and goes. Like, there's never been like significant, like, security. Like, I've never had, like, you know, 300,000-400,000 in the bank just sitting there. It's always been like, okay, my nervous system was almost conditioned to be okay with living month to month, because that's what I grew up experiencing from my family, right? So even when I was making lots of money, I was blowing it like crazy, because it's like, yeah, I came for nothing. I got all this money. It could go tomorrow, whatever. I wasn't thinking about saving, about planning for the future. Like, Ralph Maddie, who you know well, my business partner, he grew up with a very different money mindset. He grew up with a single mom with him and his brother. And he saw how his mom was able to provide for them by saving and planning, being very strategic. And Ralph adopted that mindset from his mom, which is why him and I are in very different financial situations today. And God bless him. I'm super happy for Ralph. However, I could see how I would bug Ralph for being cheap and being frugal, but he was being strategic. He was being intentional. He was being calculated. And while he was crashing on friends' home in LA, I was staying at the Mondrian, and looking back, I could see like that Ralph guy, he had it figured out, So money mindset and our ability to really connect to our self-worth and allow ourselves to feel worthy of abundance is the first step, because otherwise you can make tons of money. You can have a brilliant idea and cash in. But if you don't feel like you deserve that money, you're never going to keep it. And this is why most people that, I don't know what the exact number is, but many people who win the lottery, within less than 5 years, they're broke again because they cannot hold the frequency of abundance because it is not attuned with their beingness, with their belief system.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's interesting because life will keep, even when you become abundant, life will keep bringing you these situations where, you get triggered into the scarcity mindset, right? Like, oh no, like, I'm running out of money or whatever it is. And I really believe those are key moments we can like work that prosperity consciousness thing, because it's so easy to just stay up all night and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so worried about money. Like, where is my next paycheck coming from? Those are the moments we can really undo the programming, is when we're like actually super stressed about it. It's like, okay, the trigger is up.
Yeah.
How do I approach it differently this time? How much trust can I bring in? How much proactivity can I bring in? How much action can I bring in to change this, as opposed to just sit in the like, oh gosh.
Yeah, and that's an important word, trust. Trusting that the universe is abundant. There's trillions of dollars out there still being printed, and that there's enough money in the world for every person to actually be a millionaire.
Yeah,
and
wow.
The only thing stopping you from having financial abundance is your belief that you're not worthy of it. And when I was able to make that shift of understanding the value I'm putting out in the world is worth significantly more than my coaching fees, and that the ripple of impact from the service I'm providing is unquantifiable and truly priceless. When I really felt that in my core and believed it, that's when things shifted for me with my business. And that's when high ticket clients just started showing up, because I was of a frequency, I was vibrating at a frequency that resonated with that level of abundance.
So smart. Yep, that's so true. And that you did the inner work. You do great work in your business and scaling it and sharing it and optimizing it. And your videos are amazing. You put in the work every day, but you coupled that with the internal shift. And that's what really changed things.
I feel where there's a big conflict in the mindfulness coaching space, or let's say like the spiritual community, is the financial abundance, the prosperity, and the simple spiritual minimal lifestyle. And I can speak to this because, when I moved to Costa Rica, I was selling off my Louis Vuitton and my Tom Ford and my Gucci. I got rid of all my designer stuff because I figured I'm moving to Costa Rica. Where am I going to wear any of these things?
I remember that phase.
And if I'm being completely honest, I also wasn't in a great financial situation. So for me, I'm like, I'm going to sell off as much as I can, try to collect whatever money I can save to put towards a down payment, put towards just having the funds to start over again. And, living in Costa Rica, it's a very simple life. There isn't fancy places to dress up and go out. It's a very different lifestyle. And many other people choose to move to places like Costa Rica or Bali or any of the sort of like spiritual epicenters in the world where they can really kind of like let go of their material possessions and let go of that desire to drive a Porsche or to have those nice things for the sake of being spiritual. And why I chose to leave Costa Rica last year. And not saying I'm gone for good, but I had to leave Costa Rica in order to get back into that abundance frequency, to get back into that energy of like, no, I want to be wealthy. I want to make lots of money. I want to help thousands of people, and I want to wear nice clothes. I want to drive a Porsche. I want to eat in fancy restaurants. And that doesn't make me any less spiritual or conscious, or that doesn't diminish my contribution in the world. It's more so accepting that I can be abundant, I can be wealthy, I can be conscious and spiritual and make a difference on this planet, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But in many spiritual communities, being abundant, wearing a nice watch, driving a fancy car is looked down upon.
Yeah.
And that for me was like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I have to leave this community that has a lot of financial scarcity, because you're the average of the 5 people you spend time with.
Right.
And it's been an interesting transition, integrating the simple minimalist jungle life with the values and the practices and modalities that have helped me to really discover myself on a deeper level, while re-entering the matrix into like city like Miami or LA or Toronto, enjoying the luxuries of those cities, but still staying grounded in what actually means the most to me.
Absolutely. And it's interesting when people profess to be more spiritual because they lead a simpler life that is not based on money. But the way I look at it, I mean, I can make a difference in so many more people's lives when I have money. I mean, I can pay someone well to look after my dog. I can pay someone well to clean my house. I can pay someone to shoot videos for me. I can pay someone to assist me with my business. I mean, I'm sharing that abundance with all these great people. Why would I want to limit that? I'm robbing all this community of people that could work with me of finances as well. And then they have to go work at crappy places like corporations. So I think it's so important for us as more people who are on the path of consciousness to get into a place of deserving that financial abundance, because then we're going to share it. And I really believe we're living at a time where the tides are turning from the wealth and abundance only being in the hands of the few who run the world and, like you said, have trillions of dollars. And they don't really run the world in the most ethical way. In fact, they run the world kind of based on greed and competition. But that's shifting to where the abundance is coming into the hands of those who would use that power for good, for the good of the natural environment, animals, other human beings, our communities, our families. And so it's like, why wouldn't you want to harness that wealth that exists? Why would you want to leave it in the hands of those who actually don't care about other living things?
Yeah, and I think part of that is I was in denial, saying I didn't want wealth, I didn't want the car, I didn't want all that, because I was scared to play a bigger game. And I think a lot of people denounce wealth and would rather accept a simple spiritual life, living minimally, because for them to step up and say, no, I'm going to be of service and I'm going to expand to my full capacity and I'm going to make tons of money and I'm going to help thousands and millions of people, there's responsibility, accountability, and a lot of work that's needed. Like, you can't just sit around passively drinking cacao and doing ecstatic dances thinking that the abundance is going to show up for you. Like, you got to have a plan. You got to be on point. You got to get up and you got to make shit happen. And yes, you got to meditate and do your breath work and have your ecstatic dance, of course, but like, you got to get your shit together. And when I reflect back on friends of mine who are in the spiritual community, it's like, bro, you're in the same spot that you've been for the last 5 years. Like, come on, like, let's make shit happen, you know? And in these spiritual communities, because you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, when you're in an environment where everybody's just kind of coasting and floating and trying to find themselves, it almost becomes normalized that you're in that super chill Pura Vida mode. And while it's necessary, you got to tap into both the masculine and the feminine energies of being able to chill and nourish yourself and practice your self-care, but then get up and make shit happen as you should, as you could, as you choose to, in order to be of your highest service, to give back, to be abundant, and to create a beautiful, rich, luxurious life for yourself, if that's what you want. Not everybody wants that, but I do know that there are some people who I'll probably catch some hate on or hate from because, oh, you're materialistic, or you're superficial, or you're this, that, and the other, because living a more simple, basic life is what they want. And there's nothing wrong with that. Go for it, no problem. But I know that some of the people that might resent those that have wealth and abundance, it's coming from a place of resentment or jealousy because they wish they had that for themselves, but they don't have their shit together, nor do they have the drive or determination or commitment to actually launch that project. Take action. Like, stop talking about it and make it real.
Yep.
And that's just what I see, just having been, in Toronto, multiple businesses, going to Costa Rica, living the simple life, and then leaving to take the knowledge and the wisdom that I've learned and then go back and share that with others. Because, it's very easy to be the monk on the mountain, meditating and doing the plant medicine and all the spiritual practices. It's easy to do that on the mountain, but can you come down from the mountain and can you hold that energy and can you share that magic with people in the heart of a city that is loud and low vibe and crazy? Can you still remain in your strength and grounded and focused, and then share that medicine within the city that needs it the most, right?
And it's so beautiful that you want to do that. And I really see that journey that you did have all the abundance and the wealth and the hustle, but it wasn't fulfilling, wasn't coming from a real place. And then you had the chill and the nature and the experience of all of that integration. But now you're like, wait, how can I take it to the next level where I can take the best of each world and really anchor it in my being? Because I think that's kind of what we need to talk about next as a spiritual community. It's not like, sorry, spiritual community, y'all are not going to want to hear this, but it's actually not just all about you feeling the best ever all the time. It's actually not. It's actually about you anchoring that energy of feeling good and of sharing that good with the world. That's kind of what it's got to be about. Otherwise, it's basically just kind of like masturbation. It's like, oh, I feel so good. I'm so high vibe. What are you sharing? How are you uplifting all of humanity? Because life's short, and I'm sorry, but we're here to make this world a better place.
Yeah.
Whether that's going and taking your elderly neighbor for a walk, or it's hiring multiple people in a spiritual conscious business and helping them share abundance with their families. And yes, why wouldn't I want to fly first class when I get stuck in a little seat in economy? Why wouldn't I want to be able to fly first class and arrive feeling good and again make a better impact when I get there? So I really like what you're talking about embodying all of the different journeys you've been on and now taking it to the next level. And I think a lot of people and coaches are going to be inspired by what you're doing. So I know you're going to lead the way in a lot of ways with that.
Yeah. And like I said, different things appeal and elevate your vibration. And for me, driving a Porsche, flying business class, dressing nice, eating in fancy restaurants, I like that shit. Yeah. And I could do the barefoot, shirtless, ecstatic dance.
Totally.
On the beach as well,
You can have it. Why choose? That's Absolutely. What I always say.
One thing I would love to just add to this conversation as we talk about the masculine, feminine energies and the balance between the two is being conscious, having done this work, and now calling in that partner that's aligned. Because what I've noticed on my own journey is the deeper I go within myself, the more, it's like almost like the more work I do, the harder it becomes to find someone that I can align with, that resonates with me. So I'm curious to know what your experience has been like in that sense, because obviously you're a beautiful, attractive, single, conscious woman, and you're single.
Well, thank you. And, I think there's a saying that goes something like, it's a lot easier to find a rock than it is to find a diamond. And if you're really looking for that truly aligned partner to spend your life with, it may take longer. There's some preconceived notion that, you meet your partner in your 20s and then you spend the rest of your life together. And that's awesome when that happens. That happened with my parents. They're still together. But that's not necessarily the case for everyone, because for a lot of us, I know like myself, I was totally lost in my 20s. So whoever I was resonating with in my 20s is not who I'm going to be aligned with now, unless they were on the exact same path of growth as me. I was a late bloomer. It took me longer to grow, but I grew into someone who now I'm very proud of, and I'm grateful that I took the time to grow. And I think that being a full spectrum woman, I feel the same way as you. There's definitely less people that check the boxes for me. And I think I'm so comfortable being on my own that I don't need to latch on to someone just for company. So that also crosses a lot of guys off the list, because I'm like, I'm good on my own. And I think that in terms of what am I looking for in a partner? Was that the question?
Yeah, like for you having done your work and really knowing and understanding who you are, you're very clear on the type of man that can add value to your life, the type of man that kind of resonates, that fits. So what has that been like in the sense of, dating's challenging now. For everybody's dating challenging. So, what I'm curious to know is like, what qualities are you looking for? Like for any of the conscious men out there who might be wondering, oh my God, this woman Sitara, she's amazing. How could I find a woman like Sitara? What qualities are important to you that you're looking for in that dream partner of yours?
I think ultimately what I'm looking for in a partner is that, it's someone who is really kind and has a great heart, and also is handsome and takes really good care of himself. Because let's be honest, I take great care of myself, keeping my mind and body youthful and healthy and as vibrant as I possibly can. And so I want someone who's also on that path for himself. And I want someone who is free in his mind. He thinks for himself. He isn't programmed by what's going on. He doesn't fall for the divide and conquer tactics. And I want someone who is handsome. I kind of said that already. It's important. You got to be attracted to the person.
And that's what I struggle with, because I'm fortunate. I've dated very beautiful women in my lifetime, and there's a certain aesthetic that I really like, but there's a certain level of consciousness that I require. And some people tell me I'm looking for this unicorn, but you are looking for a very handsome man who's also very spiritual, conscious, and open-minded.
Yeah.
Is that too much to ask for?
I don't think so. And also has some good finances. He's got to have his, he doesn't need to be loaded, but have the finances in order, not be in debt. You know what I mean? Not have a bunch of poverty consciousnesses that he's living from. And kind of someone who wants to build a really amazing life with me.
Right.
Like that's I think key. And people forget to put that in their list. They're like, I'm looking for someone tall and handsome and rich. Make sure you put in there someone who wants to commit to and build a life with you and grow through the decades and ages with you. Because that's what I really want, and I don't want to settle for less.
And you deserve it.
Thanks.
And so if a man is watching this podcast or listening to it, says, oh my God, I would love to date this woman. Men these days, I feel we don't know necessarily what women want, especially when it comes to a conscious, full spectrum woman. I love that term. How could a man win your, I would say win, but like get your attention or have you be interested in him? Like, what is it that you are desiring as far as the man stepping into that role and really like showing up in that way to express his interest, his desire to be with you?
Well, I think it really takes a man knowing what he's looking for and taking the time to make sure I'm that. I'm not the type of woman that says like after a first date, he has to claim me and, lay down his life for me. It takes time to get to know someone. So take that time, make sure that I am what he's looking for, and then really step up and claim me. Yeah. Like, all right, we're doing this. Mm-hmm. Like, what is it going to take? Like, yes, I love to be taken out on dates. Yes, I love to be paid attention to. But I think it's really got to come from an authentic place.
Right.
Like you've heard the term love bombing.
Yes.
We're not trying to get love bombed.
Yeah.
No one wants someone who's like, you're everything, I need you, you're the person I've been looking for forever. Well, how do you know that? Yeah. Like, you need to get to know me first. So I want a man who is solid enough in himself to go slowly and patiently and really get to know me, and then decide that I am his woman and step into that. And I have to say, just me personally, I do kind of prefer guys that aren't all over social media, looking at other women all the time and interacting with a bunch of different influencers, because to me, social media has brought us this idea that like there's always something better out there. Right. And I kind of like a man who's a little more simple in that way, who's like, once I find a woman I'm looking for, I don't need to be chasing all these girls on social media and liking all their photos and, looking at their boobies and stuff.
Yeah. No, and I can relate because I cut out a lot of that when I began my feminine cleanse. Yeah. And it's true for us men. A lot of us do that. And I appreciate you sharing that wisdom. As I reintegrate into relating with the feminine now, I'm definitely going to take what you've shared into consideration as I am calling in my goddess.
And what do you have time to tell me what you're looking for in your goddess?
So after 6 months of no relating, no dating, no flirting, and just sitting with all the past experiences of my relationships, because all that stuff comes up, just reflecting on the amazing women that I have been in relationship with and the wonderful qualities that they all possessed, seeing how I didn't show up, seeing what I would have done different, because of course hindsight is always 2020. I feel that a lot of the women that I've been with, well, I'll say like 3 or 4 of the ex-girlfriends I was in relationships with could have been the one had I had the emotional maturity to really surrender into the relationship fully. And I feel I've been very blessed that I have had amazing partners in my lifetime. And many of the qualities, so of course, first and foremost, integrity and self-respect, self-worth, that they've worked through their traumas and their issues so that they have a knowing of who they are and what they want. Someone who has obviously gotten clear on their future vision. Someone who is ready to have a family. Someone who does see themselves as a mother. Because for me, children and being a father is very, very important for me. And obviously, somebody who works out, takes care of themselves, eats well, not into drugs, maybe a little bit of tequila or white wine is fine, but someone who's kind of over that party stage. Now, if you were a partier in the past, that's okay. I've been a partier in the past too. I get it, so no judgment around that, but somebody who's like kind of over that stage of their life. Mm-hmm. Someone who honors family, someone who wants to, most importantly, learn and grow and evolve, because I am in a constant state of expansion and I want to be with a person who can walk this path with me, someone who wants to be the best version of themselves so that they can hold space for me to grow and I can do the same for them. And of course, I do want to be with someone who's attractive. I think I take care of myself and I still look good, and will look good for a while because I'm going to do everything I can to do so. I want that in my partner.
You're going to live to 120, you told me.
That's it, 120 at least. That chemistry, that passion. And not to say that comes just from the aesthetic. Mm-hmm. However, you need to have that initial attraction, and so there's that balance of wanting to be with someone that you're attracted to, but also knowing okay, maybe the type that I've been going after isn't the type that actually is going to be the right one for the life partnership, right? And at the end of the day, just really being with someone who's got a kind heart, someone who is patient, someone who wants to make the world a better place, and someone who really believes in my mission and knows that I've dedicated my life to helping humanity to heal and just wanting to make this world a better place. And I want my queen to walk side by side me to support me in achieving that goal to its fullest, you know? So there's that. I mean, obviously travel and adventure and, you know, there's many other things, but essentially I want someone who really shares the same desires and passions that I do. And I know she's out there. You know, I know there are many great women that embody all those qualities. However, it's taken me to do this work and have that internal growth and evolution for me to, again, be the vibrational match for that woman. Just like I had to overcome my beliefs and let go of old blockages to be the vibration of financial abundance, I've had to do the same when it comes to my relationship with the feminine. And I do think that I've made some great progress. I do think the feminine cleanse was super helpful for me. And, you know, I am very clear on what I want. And I could say probably for the first time in my life, I could say like, I'm really ready. It feels really good to have that self-assurance and believe that I've done the work. I've healed a lot of what I've been carrying with myself, and that I'm ready to enjoy that next chapter of my life, you know?
Yeah. And I believe too, as you're speaking, it makes me think that we also have to remember that there is perhaps some greater plan at work. And as you walk in the kingly version of yourself, waiting for your queen to walk beside you, it could be more of like, you know, I mean, I hear the word destiny come to mind, but it could be just such a bigger picture at play that you're going to meet this particular woman and you're not going to meet her until the time is absolutely right for your long life path and for, you know, the legacy of your children that come later. There's just so much more at play, I think, than we think.
Yes, so. I agree. And part of my healing journey has also been to let go of the expectation, to release the pressure I put on myself about finding that right person, and just, again, rather than looking for the one, becoming the one, just trust that she's out there, and when we are energetically aligned, our paths will cross. Absolutely. You know, I truly believe that. That is the energy I'm putting out there, and I know it's going to happen. I have a strong feeling that this is the year for me. Yeah.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah, I love it too. Well, thank you, Sitara. It's been a pleasure to sit down and have this conversation with you, and just to dive deep together and to share you and all the wonderful things that you do and you are with my audience. I'd love to do this again sometime. We should do this like every couple of years.
Let's do it.
We drop in and we give our updates and, you know, keep it going like an ongoing series. And I definitely think, you know, at some point in time, we need to collaborate on a conscious male, female kind of dating type event, because I know there's a lot of people who are also going through the same dating challenges we are. And I'd love to support people with that. So thank you for being here. Thanks for being on the podcast. And where can people find you? What is new and exciting for you that people can learn more about what you got going on?
Well, thanks, Zarak. It's always so fun to talk with you, and I'd love to do it again. People can follow me on my Instagram and my Facebook right now. My website's under construction, but it'll be up soon. And on my Instagram, I'm always sharing like new courses and new workshops I'm doing. And you can connect with me there for private coaching as well.
Love it. Okay. I'll put all that down in the show notes below. Thank you again so much for having us and for hosting us here at your beautiful home in the country. Let's go for a walk down the river now. Get some nature.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. If you enjoyed this podcast and you learned something valuable, then please hit subscribe so you don't miss the future episodes. I'd love it if you share this with a friend and leave us a review. Your feedback is so important to our growth. Thank you for supporting the Path to Purpose podcast. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next episode.